Trump administration and this federal judge, 5 p.m. Eastern is when the hearing's supposed to take place over the allegations they defied a court order by flying migrants over the weekend to El Salvador. Just ahead of that, Justice Department said the judge cannot interfere in Trump's deportation efforts, citing national security reasons for that. As we bring in our legal expert on this, I told you we'd talk more about the legal side of it. The criminal defense attorney, the great Mercedes Colwin, joins us. Always great to have you, Mercedes, especially when we need something like this explained. There's a lot of political kind of heated rhetoric. I get the politics of it. I'm not so sure about the legal back and forth of it. What do you know, and what should we expect?
Thank you for that very kind introduction, Connell. It's always wonderful to be on with you. I love these types of topics because they're very complicated.
Yeah.
So let's step back and talk about the constitutional powers that the president has. He does have, obviously, foreign policy powers in his executive branch of government. And the president is drawn upon those powers when he says, to me, the reason why I am now following the Foreign Enemies Act is because we were invaded by this Tren de Aragua's gang. So it's an invasion. And if you have an invasion, then presumably you can trigger that act. Here's the rub, though. That act was a policy and an authority during war, not during peace. So the critics of the president have said, you are enacting and following a law that's triggered when the country is at war. We're not at war. This is peacetime talks.
Yes.
So when we're in a peaceful state, then we should follow the immigration laws. And even when there are illegals in this country, no one's disputing that these are potential illegals. No one's disputing that this gang is horrible. They are accused of rape, arson, murder, all those very significant violent crimes. But if you look at what is permitted under the immigration laws, even individuals that are accused of that wrongful conduct and they're here illegally, there's a due process. Mm-hmm. The difference is if you follow immigration laws, you have to go and it takes time. Due process means a hearing, means evidence. And instead, if you follow the Foreign Enemies Act, there is no due process because you are at war. And then the last time that the president followed that act, not this president, obviously, World War II. It was followed in the War of 1812. It was followed in the War of World War I, and it was last followed in World War II to address the Japanese that were in the country during World War II.
Right. Okay. So a couple of things there that now that I do understand it better, it takes me a while sometimes, Mercedes, you know that. On the tablet, you talked about taking time. So here's the kind of the timeline of these migrants being expelled to El Salvador. It didn't take a lot of time at all for the president on Saturday to invoke this, and then the flights start going. The second flight, the judge verbally blocks it, then enters it into the docket. Third flight, Trump administration files a motion to appeal. President El Salvador says, oh, it's too late. They're already in international waters. They're already here, essentially. Right. Now, today, and this is the thing that took me a second, because Kelly Meyer, to her credit, did do a good job of explaining it, but it took me a while to understand. But the DOJ, the Department of Justice, came out and tried to get this hearing thrown out, saying that they didn't have the jurisdiction. And the judge said, no, we're going to still have the hearing. So that's what we're expecting in half an hour. So now, I guess one of the questions is, these hundreds of migrants and gang members, according to the administration, already got on the plane and already went back. So what happens to them? Or we're just talking about the future now? What are we actually talking about?
That's such a critical question. The future now is this is what's going to be probably unpackaged at the appellate court. And if not the appellate court, it's going to go up to SCOTUS. What are the constitutional powers that the president has at this moment in time, given this level of crisis? What can he do? Can he follow the Foreign Enemies Act? That's going to be one key issue. Has he violated the court order? Because remember, this judge, and
what if he did, by the way, and they're already there?
Exactly. The judge said, turn the planes around. But the DOJ, the DOJ and the administration said, well, you're in international waters. Your order is not applicable when you're over international waters and you're there. At this point, even the judge in the order has already acknowledged that once these individuals are already on foreign land in El Salvador, nothing can be done with respect to them. So even if the ACLU, and the ACLU is the one that brought the case that is before this judge to begin with, even with the ACLU cannot do anything. What the ACLU can do is literally just make sure to understand what the powers that the president has, what can he do prospectively on other deportations if he's going to rely on the Foreign Enemy Act. And that's going to be a really key issue. And honestly, Connell, it's not going to even be, yes, it might be hearing now. It'll go up to the Court of Appeals. But you know, if you're talking about the constitutional powers of the president, it's going to go up to the
Supreme Court.
SCOTUS.
Yeah, thanks so much for watching. Just go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.